If you want to retire on Tesla stock, this is one of the most important steps. I invested in Tesla stock in early 2019, and it was not a nice feeling to see the stock drop significantly, at one point roughly 50% for one brief moment, especially because I would open the news and I would see terrible headlines all over the place. Here are some recent headlines which also seem terrible. Tesla shares down on slimming margins, Cybertruck concerns, Tesla stock tumbles nearly 10% on margin concerns, and then Elon also warned that production is going to be down in Q3. Tesla operating margins a concern ahead of earnings. It never really quite changes. The problem is you want to retire on Tesla stock, which means you are a long-term Tesla stock investor, but the news is focused on the short term. There is a conflict of interest. Unless you have as much willpower as David Blaine, who stayed underwater for 7 days being fed through tubes, yeah, I suggest that you focus on the long term by following the right people who will make you focus on the long term. Instead of reading news from the mainstream media, which is focused on the negative almost always, and sometimes they completely unfairly attack Tesla. Perhaps because Tesla does not spend any money basically on advertising, unlike other automakers that spend a lot of money with these news networks usually, and that probably favors their news coverage, doesn't it? For example, did you know that Ford has about 3 times as many recalls as Tesla? But if you read the mainstream news, you wouldn't know that. You would think that Tesla's have by far the most recalls out of all of the vehicles. And by the way, this number right here includes recalls that they're fixed over the air with a software update. So Tesla actually is as reliable pretty much as a Toyota when it comes to recalls. And that is why, as a Tesla stock investor, you want to be extremely careful who you follow, because if you just see negative stories after negative stories and just negative stories all day, every day, then that will get to you eventually. You do, however, need a good source of news, a good source of accurate news. And this is exactly what this video will help you with. As a Tesla stock investor, you first need to understand what Tesla is all about, then you need to stay up to date with all of the Tesla stock news, and then number 3, you need to develop your investment thesis as well to help you be a better Tesla stock investor. So in this video, I will give you a complete list of everyone you need to follow to accomplish all of these 3 things. My channel is a mix of everything, so this is a great place to be. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure that you do. If you are a newer Tesla stock investor, I recommend the Tesla Space. They have these nice explainer videos that often include all of the context that you need to know about each particular subject. The videos are also highly produced and beautiful to watch. The next channel I would recommend to better understand Tesla overall, and especially specific technologies, for example, like 4680 batteries, would be Cleaner Watt. He has this way of explaining things in a very simple way, easy to understand and easy to follow videos. If after that you still have a thirst for more knowledge and you don't mind slightly longer, less produced videos, Dr. Know-It-All Knows It All is highly recommended. And now that you know a few things about Tesla and you want deeper dives that are quite technical, packed with very dense information, beautifully presented, Limiting Factor is perhaps the single best channel for that. For you to become a much better Tesla stock investor, I highly recommend consuming everything produced by Tony Seba. He has quite a few interesting and thought-provoking ideas. Here's one that I highly suggest to really think about. Tony Seba says that electric vehicles will do around 500,000 miles instead of just doing 140,000 miles. In other words, EVs will last 4 to 5 times longer than gas-powered vehicles. In other words, the global car market will likely drop by 75% because people won't need to replace cars as often, basically, he says. Whether you agree or disagree with that point of view, it is certainly thought-provoking, and it is something that a long-term investor who wants to retire on Tesla stock should carefully think about. Up next is Monroe Live. They do tear down videos. They take Teslas, for example, they tear them down and they show us how it holds up to other vehicles. For example, the Model Y, when we look at the thermal hose statistics, it completely obliterated the Ford Mach-E. The length of hoses in the Model Y were 6.35 meters, and the Mach-E was about 3 times as long. For technical knowledge, I highly recommend this channel. For longer deep dives, Connecting the Dots does a pretty good job. The videos also have timestamps, making them really easy to watch. Even though they are quite a bit long, they are also quite nicely produced. These channels will give you a good understanding of what Tesla as a company is and what Tesla is capable of doing. Now, here are a few long-term investors who I would suggest you follow. I highly recommend Dave Lee. He doesn't post very often, but when he posts, it's usually something that you should actually really know about. So he does cover some of the news occasionally. He doesn't cover any minor news, only big, major news. And that's really enough if you just want to stay up to date with only the very major news. Dave Lee is your guy. He has also been a Tesla stock investor, I think, for more than a decade now. If you don't mind some seriously colorful language, Solving the Money Problem YouTube channel is pretty good. Steven is very, I emphasize very bullish on Tesla stock, and he will always make you feel better if you feel bad about Tesla stock that day. Now let's talk about Full Self-Driving. I like the Black Tesla YouTube channel because he has this one road through which he always goes whenever there is a new FSD version of Full Self-Driving. I don't like it then there are just videos of a different route each time. It makes it a little bit harder to gauge exactly how much Tesla has progressed. So if you are new to Tesla, this is a good place to start just to gauge how good is Full Self-Driving. But really, the best way is to have Full Self-Driving in your own Tesla, and then you take your own Tesla through the same road each time there is a new version. Then you will know for sure there's no trickery involved because it's you doing the test. If you like a more condensed version of how good is each version currently, AI Driver does really good videos that are highly produced and very enjoyable to watch. Unless you have FSD beta on your vehicle, I highly recommend that you watch every single video that he puts out. It's all packed with good content. If you want to see a lot of raw footage of Full Self-Driving in San Francisco, which is where it works the best, Hallmark's catalog has you covered. There are so many videos and he puts out so many of them all the time that you will have a pretty good idea of how Full Self-Driving is doing currently in San Francisco if you don't mind spending quite a bit of time watching through a lot of these videos. And if you'd like to learn more about Full Self-Driving as an investor and how to model it perhaps into your own Tesla stock valuation model, ARK Invest is a pretty good place to start. Go to Google, search for ARK Invest Price Target Tesla. You will see this article. ARK Invest manages billions and billions of dollars, and they have nailed their Tesla stock price targets before. It does not mean that they will be that accurate this time again, but they do have the track record. I'm certainly not saying that you should agree with their $2,500 price target for 2027 in their bull case, but every single new Tesla stock investor should analyze and study ARK Invest and how they analyze Tesla, because they have been really accurate before. And Elon Musk himself recommends to read what ARK Invest says about Tesla stock. But keep in mind that even many retail Tesla stock investors think that ARK Invest is too bullish. If you want to know when Tesla is releasing new Full Self-Driving versions, Tesla Scope on Twitter is a pretty good account to follow. They usually tell you pretty early when they see first users getting new Full Self-Driving beta versions. If you are a little bit more advanced and you want to get into the nitty-gritty of Tesla's earnings and deliveries and everything like that, I highly recommend that you follow Troy Teslaike on Twitter and perhaps even subscribe to his Patreon, which is well worth it. He's pretty detailed and his coverage is very comprehensive. And now, who should you watch to get the latest Tesla stock news? Well, if you don't want to watch the news every single day and just get the most important stories, but you want to keep up with everything maybe a few times per week, Ryan Shaw is a pretty good option. However, he does present everything not from a point of view of an investor, but more from a point of view of just a reporter and a Tesla customer. The videos are highly produced and quite engaging. If you only want to watch Tesla news once a week, you can watch them from Best in Tesla. Just watch the videos that have a thumbnail with the word news in them, and that way, with just one episode per week, you will pretty much be able to keep up with most of the latest important Tesla stock news stories. They are a little bit more focused on Tesla in Europe though. If you want to keep up with everything Tesla every single day, I recommend one of the three channels, either mine or Electrified or Tesla Daily. My channel is going to be the most entertaining, so you'll have the most fun watching it. Rob from Tesla Daily pretty much covers every major story every day. Lately, however, because Tesla Daily videos are not as produced, I have been really preferring Electrified YouTube channel. And as you see, I watch a lot of these. Usually I just skip through them just to see if I miss anything that day. But both Dylan and Rob do a great job covering Tesla stock news daily. They are both Tesla stock investors, although they don't have their whole stock portfolios in Tesla stock like me and Steve and Mark Ryan, but even despite that, their coverage is really good and they always put everything through the lens of a long-term Tesla stock investor, so I highly recommend these two. I also like Farzad a lot. He used to be a Tesla employee, and the best account to follow for daily Tesla stock news on Twitter is Sawyer Merritt. There are many other channels that you can follow. I'll go through them quickly here. Sam Alexander, the Bearded Tesla Guy YouTube channel, has the best pricing updates of Tesla vehicles. I like Ron Barron, who is a multi-billionaire and has billions of dollars invested in Tesla stock. He is also a fund manager, so you will get that institutional perspective. Gary Black is also a fund manager, and he always gives these good perspectives of what institutional Tesla stock investors are thinking. If you are a more conservative investor, but you also care about day-to-day stuff, and maybe you don't mind even considering selling Tesla stock, actually, Gary Black, I would say, is a pretty good account to follow to stay informed because he is not afraid of selling Tesla stock. He did that before. Another billionaire who I would recommend that you follow, he doesn't post much. On Twitter, you will find him as Cogwin Leo. He was pretty negative about Tesla, though, back in December of 2022. However, he did not sell. I also personally like Alexandra Mers, also known as the Tesla Boomer Mama. And if you don't mind some bad news, I would highly recommend to follow James Catt on Twitter as well. He can be pretty harsh, so be warned. He is, however, a Tesla stock bull. And then I recommend that you give Bradford Ferguson a follow. He is in finance, so you will have that perspective. And he also has this beautiful report about Tesla and Tesla stock, where they show you their valuation model of Tesla stock. And if you read that whole report, you will have a very good understanding of every single thing that Tesla is working on as a company and every single thing that you should know as an investor. But from the perspective of someone who is in finance, they are more bullish than pretty much all of the Wall Street analysts. And in a bull case, which we call an alternative scenario, they say that Tesla stock should already be over $1,000 today. You should watch this video where I go through that report. My name is Matt Posius. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you right here.